What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so we got some more entitled liberals coming your way. Check this out, y'all. Judge deems Trump's National Institutes of Health grant cuts illegal. Oh, are they illegal? Right, so it's illegal. Ooh. Of course, that's how they're framing this once again, but I imagine this is going to get overturned on appeal, but let's see what the judge had to say. A federal judge in Boston on Monday said the termination of National Institutes of Health grants for research on diversity-related topics by President Donald Trump's administration was void and illegal, and accused the government of discriminating against racial minorities and LGBT people. Oh, they forgot the Q plus and Two-Spirit nonsense. They forgot all that. So now they're saying that if the government cannot give out grants that discriminate on the basis of race or sex, then the government is discriminating. Yeah, that's what it is. Let's just say that anything that sticks to me, I throw it back on you, and it sticks like glue. Or whatever, however that saying goes. I forget how that saying goes. Y'all let me know down in the comment section, because I can't think of whatever you say to me comes back onto you, or something. I forget. But that's what they're going with. That's the argument that the judge made. No lie. That the government, in trying to eliminate discrimination on the basis of sex and race, is saying that the government, by stopping grant money from going out, is discriminating on the basis of race and sex. How insane are some of these judges? And he's a Republican appointed judge too. Fascinating. U.S. District Judge William Young, during a non-jury trial, said the NIH violated federal law by arbitrarily canceling more than $1 billion in research grants because of their perceived connection to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Young said he was reinstating grants that had been awarded to organizations in Democratic-led states that sued over the terminations, and the judge indicated that as the case proceeds, he could issue a more sweeping decision. This represents racial discrimination and discrimination against America's LGBTQ community, said Young, an appointee of Republican former President Ronald Reagan. Any discrimination by our government is so wrong that it requires the court to enjoin it, and at an appropriate time, I'm going to do it. So, once again, folks, anything you say to me, I throw back onto you, and I stick it like glue or whatever, however, like I said, however that goes. That's what this judge is doing. Donald Trump eliminated diversity, equity, and inclusion programs because they discriminate on the basis of race. And think about this. Let's zoom out there for a second. Let's jump up to 30,000 feet and see what we got going on here. So, research grants, get this, research grants into LGBTQ plus issues. I wonder what that could be. Why are we issuing research grants for DEI? Think about that one for a second. Fascinating, that is. Why do they need to research diversity, equity, and inclusion? And why does the government have to do this, right? It's illegal for the government not to give out money, apparently, that according to this judge, for some really, really obscure and really, really esoteric research. I mean, it's got to be esoteric research, because I've never heard of researching diversity, equity, and inclusion, for goodness sakes. I thought we were trying to backtrack away from these issues in this country. I didn't know that we were still well-rooted in this racist nonsense, but I guess we are, folks. Referring to the termination of grants for research related to issues involving racial minorities, the judge said he had, in 4 decades on the bench, never seen a record where racial discrimination was so palpable. No, that's what DEI does. It discriminates on the basis of race, and Donald Trump is trying to end anything related to racial discrimination. Once again, this judge is like a mirror, because he's just reflecting it back onto you. Oh, you're just being racist because you want to end racism. You want to end racist practices. You are bearing down on people of color because of their color. the judge said, referring to Trump's administration. The Constitution will not permit that. No, that's what they're doing, and Donald Trump is trying to stop it. Once again, these people are insane, y'all. Representatives of the NIH and its parent agency, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Oh, but did they respond not so immediately? Like, did they respond like 10 minutes later? 5 minutes later? Where's their response? Rachel Mirapool of the American Civil Liberties Union, which represents the grant recipients who sued, said Young's ruling applies to hundreds of grants. The plaintiffs include the American Public Health Association, a membership organization for public health researchers, and 16 states led by Massachusetts. The NIH, the world's largest funder of biomedical and behavioral research, has terminated 2,100 research grants totaling about $9.5 billion and an additional $2.6 billion in contracts since Trump took office in January, according to a letter that dozens of NIH employees signed onto last week protesting the cuts. The funding cuts are part of Trump's wide-ranging actions to reshape the government, slash federal spending, and end government support for DEI programs and transgender health care. What is transgender health care? Like, do we think that the government should fund prosthetic surgeries? Like, you know, aesthetic surgeries? Like plastic surgeries and stuff like that, trying to change how you look? Should the government fund that? Should the government fund research into plastic surgery? Because, hang on just a second. We know of no way medically to change somebody's sex. So, what is transgender health care? It's all plastic surgery. It's all aesthetic. All of it is just aesthetics. None of it has any sort of biological functions to it. None of it. I'm sorry. None of it does. Why should the government fund those things? And how did we get here, by the way? How did we get to a place where the government, it's illegal for the government not to fund research into plastic surgery? I just don't get that one. The administration's plans to cut 10,000 jobs at health agencies, including NIH, have been temporarily blocked by another federal judge. Wow. Trump also has signed a series of executive orders requiring agencies to ensure grant funds do not promote gender ideology and to end support of what it sees as discriminatory DEI programs. Right, exactly. Conservative critics of DEI programs have portrayed them as discriminatory against white people and certain others. No, it's discriminatory against everybody. In line with Trump's policy agenda, the NIH has instructed staff to terminate grant funding for studies related to DEI programs, transgender issues, COVID-19, and ways to curb vaccine hesitancy, and grants that could potentially benefit Chinese universities. Yes, why would we want to benefit Chinese universities? For goodness sakes. And why are we researching COVID vaccine hesitancy? Still. Why? That's nonsense, y'all. It really is nonsense. That's all to that. But I just don't get that one. Look, y'all, since I mentioned COVID, y'all make sure and go talk to a doctor if you have any symptoms or anything like that. And, you know, I'm not going to disparage the vaccines at all. I'm not going to say, you know, they're bad or anything, because vaccines do perform a service. They really do. They're really good for the most part. Sure, they might put stuff in your body you don't like, but it is what it is. Always go talk to a doctor, though, and make sure you ask and get all the information. Do your own research, regardless of what the corporate press, you know, the corporate press will try to tell you, well, you know, doing your own research can be dangerous. No, I'm sorry. You can do your own research. But I would also say in that, if you do your own research, also talk to a doctor. Because a lot of times, you do your own research, that doctor can confirm or dispel any ideas you may have that may have been wrong or correct. You know what I'm saying? So make sure and always do your own research and talk to an expert. That's always a good, because that's a good way to flush out bad ideas as well, if you know what I mean by that. But y'all do that because I don't know, YouTube's kind of weird about that kind of stuff, so I like to say that because it's good advice anyway, right? I mean, think about that for a second. It's good advice. Do your own research for sure, but also speak to an expert, because the expert has the deep knowledge that you need. The internet has a lot of deep knowledge, but sometimes we might not be able to figure out how to interpret some of that knowledge, and it could wind up being a bad thing. So y'all make sure and talk to a doctor for sure. But I don't understand these programs. Like, why are we researching, for goodness sakes? And why is it illegal? That's what I don't get. Where in the Constitution does it say anything about forcing the government to give out grants for ridiculous research? It doesn't say that anywhere in the Constitution. This judge is an activist, for crying out loud, right? Like, once again, the corporate press and a lot of people, they like to say, oh, well, he's a Republican judge. What does that matter? People can be radicalized over the course of their lifetime. Ronald Reagan was president when I was a child, for crying out loud. That was in the 80s, for goodness sake. So that was a long time ago. People can be radicalized. Plus, at the same time, right, like Ronald Reagan didn't specifically appoint this guy. Like, these judges get appointed by people that work on the staff of the president. Like other lawmakers, they'll request that somebody, hey, look into nominating this guy for blah, 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 blah. And, it could be a Democratic activist working at the White House or something like that. You never know. Like just because Donald Trump appointed somebody doesn't mean that he's a hardcore conservative. Right? People can slip through the cracks. Plus, you can't get all of these people. There's a lot of people that get appointed to the bench, and all of them can't be solid people, right? Statistically speaking. So that's why I can't stand when they say, oh, he's a Republican judge. Is he, though? Like, once again, that this judge definitely is not. Because I can't see anywhere in the Constitution where it says the government must be forced to fund research based on discrimination. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Why they should be forced to do it. Now, if the government wants to do that, it is what it is, and I would call into question the fiscal responsibility of whoever made that decision. But, the decision was made to go ahead and do it. But if they want to stop doing it, I think the government most certainly has the right to stop funding things that they don't need to be funding, things that don't make any sense, things that are not going to progress our knowledge, our scientific knowledge, for crying out loud, our medical knowledge, for goodness sakes. Like, how is any of that going to help? How is researching DI going to help any of those things? It's probably not, but it blows my mind. So maybe I'm overlooking something. Y'all let me know down in the comment section if I'm missing the mark on this. I don't think I am. I think the government has a spending problem, and it's things like this: $9.6 billion in grants and $2.6 billion in contracts that Donald Trump is trying to save you because it was being wasted on ridiculous research. That's what I think. Let me know what you think. That's all I got on this one. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. And look, hey, look right below the video. Look, I really, really would appreciate if you guys would look below the video. You see that little blue button right there, that right next to right where the subscribe button used to be? Yeah, click that for me and sign up and become a member and help me out, y'all. Help me out. I really want some members on this channel, but y'all do that for me, and y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace. I was just kidding, by the way. I really do want you to do it, but you don't have to.